It's the maiden voyage of a little ship we call Talking Scheetz. Ironically, my name is Chris Scheetz.
That isn't irony, but my name is Baillie Scheetz.
Are you going to correct me a lot?
Well, we'll see. If you're wrong a lot.
All right, you'll be correcting me a lot. Let's do it. Take it away, Dan.
Even when we got nothing to talk about, there's nowhere I'd rather be. 'Cause there's something about you and me just sitting around talking sheets.
Talking Scheetz. There is one of many not getting paid anything for this project. The one and only Dan Davidson. He wrote that, he sang it, he produced it, and I'm surprised he takes my phone calls, I'll be honest with you, because every time I've ever called him, I've needed something, and he nailed it.
It's really good. It's been in my head all week. It's
Earworm.
it's getting in there.
Earworm.
And I have to say I'm impressed because you didn't give me a lot of background. You just said, you know what, I'm going to get a song, I'm going to get a jingle, and I was a bit apprehensive, and then you came back with this, no notes. Really good.
What did you think it was going to be, to the tune of Take Me Home Country Roads?
I thought you might have sang it, was my fear. So the fact that somebody as good as Dan is singing it's great. It's the first thing we haven't screwed up so far.
I hadn't thought of that. All right. We've spent the 15 minutes prior to this with Baillie discussing how she was going to sit, what she was going to do with her hair. And I'm like, I just kind of sit down, I man spread, and obviously I don't have to worry about my hair. It's stressful being you.
Yes, it is. And I had to feed a baby right before this, so I have spit up on me. Don't look too closely. I had to curl the front of my hair. Don't look. The back is none of my business. It's certainly none of your business. It's just, but yeah, it's a production now that shows have videos and TikTok, and I can't have the TikTok teens calling me out. That's scary.
TikTok teens?
Yeah.
They're not Swifties.
Well,
they're the same thing.
No. Well, some TikTok teens are Swifties, but they're not the same thing.
Okay.
Swifties are just Taylor Swift fans. Right. TikTok teens are just people on TikTok.
All right.
And most of them are teens, and they're critical in the comments.
I occasionally am on TikTok. What would I be?
A TikTok grandpa, I guess. Yeah. I think there's very few of you.
A TikPa.
Yeah. TikTok might be no more.
I don't know what's going on with that, but
we'll see.
That wouldn't.
It's none of your business, like the back of my hair.
It's none of my business. Exactly. All right. Well, you know what? This is going to be exciting. I'm pretty nervous, and I shouldn't be nervous after being behind a microphone for 35 years. But I think that going into this project, I thought if you and I could spend some time together, one-on-one, and which we don't normally get a chance to do, if we could entertain your grandmas, my mom and my mother-in-law, then the show would be worth it. But we released this thing on social media. And
people were excited.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah, I thought it was a little bit of a make work project for us while we're both kind of in a different, we'll talk about that later, but transitional phases in our lives. I was like, oh yeah, this is going to be fun to try out. But then people started getting excited, and that made me nervous.
Right, because now there's expectations.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I thought that maybe a couple people would follow us, check it out, but yeah.
Okay, so we have to do a good job today, or sometimes you only have one chance.
Yeah.
Right, in life.
We can't blow it. We can't get canceled, certainly.
Okay. Well, let's hope that doesn't happen. Let's do a quick shout out to another guy not getting paid anything, our executive producer to the stars, Renato Pignani. He said, Chris, if I give you any advice, I want you to turn your radio announcer knob down from a 10 to a 6, because I have this habit of using my radio voice, right?
Yeah, and this is just a chat.
Right.
And that's different.
And that is different. But I was thinking on the radio when I would be with Jack and Matt for all of those years. I mean, I think we would just, but when I was introducing songs and doing that kind of stuff and talking about the weather, all of a sudden that your DJ voice happens.
And you had such a time constraint. Like it was a different format.
Yeah.
Still talking, but in a different way.
All right. Well, shout out to my favorite son-in-law, Renato, because he actually came up with the name Talking Scheetz.
Yes.
We had some other versions. I thought between the sheets, because we're going to have guests on, but between the sheets and a dad and daughter.
It's a little creepy.
It doesn't work.
Yeah. I thought call him dad.
Right.
A little bit of a play on Call Her Daddy, the very popular podcast, would be good, but we didn't want to get sued.
Right.
So that one was out of the question.
Could that happen?
I don't know.
Getting sued?
I don't know.
Okay. Because I feel like we kind of ripped off Conan O'Brien with our intro, too.
It's a Dan Davidson original.
Yeah.
Sue him, if anything.
That's it. All right. Well, you know what? We're thrilled that you're giving us your time. Time is so valuable. People have very limited amounts of it. But the fact that we can hang out where we are at, and we'll tell you where we're at coming up, but you're giving us your time is just so appreciated.
Yeah, the excitement was really, really nice.
Okay. Well, again, I'm Chris. That's Baillie. Some of you know me. Some of you know her. Some of you don't know either of us. Some of you know us together as a dynamic duo. But we thought that for this episode, and it's not always going to be this way, but we'd kind of go into our lives and give you a little bit of a background of who we are, what we're doing, and hopefully we'll try to make it entertaining along the way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, just a little bit of a pilot episode, as they call it in TV.
Okay, so we're going to pilot away here. All right, well, I'm going to go first, if that's okay, because I started first.
You were born first.
1970. What a day, December 3rd. I came into the world to Roland and Carol Scheetz, my parents. Grew up on the farm, and from the day I was born, I was destined to be a farmer. That was just kind of the way it goes. When you grow up in Thorsby like I did, it was going to be that way. And I certainly did a lot of that in my life. I spent a lot of time on the farm. I fell in love with radio because back when I was a kid, it was the only thing to keep you sane on the tractor, to be quite honest. We didn't have cell phones. We didn't have GPS. We didn't have this. It was uphill to school both ways. It was tough, Baillie. It was a tough time.
Oh, yes. Yes.
You don't believe me?
You're painting the picture like it was the 1900s, the early 1900s. But
it was the 1970s.
To the TikTok teens, that is the 1900s.
Pretty
much,
sure. Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, all black and white, right? It was that way. So I grew up loving radio, and I decided that's what I wanted to do with my life. It was like divine intervention. I have no idea what day, but one day something told me, go into radio. So I did. I went to radio school, got my job at Kissin' Country on May 10th, 1989, at the age of 18 years old, and stayed there for 35 years.
It's a long time, especially to me, who is 5 years younger than that.
Right. So, and then in May of this past year, I decided to close that chapter in my life. And as I said when I made my announcement, you get to the point where you feel like you've kind of done everything you can in one role or one time of your life, and you decide to make a very big change, and that's what I decided to do. And it's funny because I told everybody when I made my announcement that I was not retiring, but everybody I see and everywhere I go since that final day at Cook County Saloon asked me how my retirement's going.
Yeah, they didn't listen to the full message.
No.
They heard you were leaving and they assumed, you know what, he's old, he's washed up, he's gone.
Yeah.
That's not true.
Well, no, you might be right on a lot of those things. But 53 years old, I wanted to continue to do some other things with my life. I wanted to spend more time with your mom, being a good husband. Questionable if that's happened in the last 8 months. But, I couldn't afford to retire. I don't know if you know, but it costs a lot of money to live now. At 53 years old, if you decided to retire and God willing, you lived to 90 years old, you need a ton of money. So you got to continue to find your way, right? So, and I only bring that up because people ask, what are you up to? What are you doing? Well, you're trying to find that balance now, kind of doing what you want, when you want, with who you want, but you're also trying to, just take care of your family. So how have I done so far, Baillie?
I would say you started off strong.
Yeah.
You took some time off, you relaxed, you recharged, you went on a couple trips, things like that. And then the summer hit and I had my baby, which was great.
Yes.
And that gave you kind of a new activity, grandfather, new role.
Right.
You helped us out a lot, which was great and took up a lot of your time.
Yeah.
Now we're kind of established with the baby. You're kind of, it was winter. It got a little bit rougher for you, I would say.
Yeah. I would think it, I think it probably did. Like, and I've been watching TikToks on retirement. They've been coming up now. It's funny how you watch one thing and then all of a sudden that's all you get. But they talked about people saying early on, there's a honeymoon phase when you leave something and it was like, oh my gosh, I get to sleep in, which, oh my gosh, I get to sleep in, which is
especially with your prior shift.
Huge thing. But oh my gosh, I don't have to worry about anything tomorrow, right? Oh my gosh, this is fantastic. I'm on holidays, but I'm not the kind of guy that can be on holidays every day.
And your schedule prior, you were all in.
Right.
All in on your job. It wasn't like I'm 9 to 5 in the office and then I'm going to log off and go live my life. It was a part of who you are.
Right.
And I think that's the hardest part is just like when it's a part of you, it's hard to distance yourself from it. And it's hard to just, that when that part is suddenly gone after one day, it's like, oh, okay, what do I do with that part now?
Right. And I hope that others, I don't hope, it's not like I've gone through hell or anything like that, but I'm thinking there's others that could relate. Whatever job you did, if you were a police officer for 30 years or you were a nurse for 30 years or 35 years, and then one day you weren't, it's a real adjustment. So I think some of the programs we're going to talk about mental health, and I've been taking career therapy. I haven't been going for a while. I need to. I think my therapist probably needs therapy after listening to me.
It's good that you gave her a break.
But
maybe.
I mean, my gosh, you pay somebody and they have to listen to you. It's brilliant. Like if you're me, because you miss people listening to you. Yeah. I think that was probably one of the biggest parts of this for me, right?
Yeah, you're used to connecting with a community that cares about what you're saying, and you care about them as well. It's a back and forth, and then that sort of channel for you, partly we're going to talk a little bit later, is still there, but part of it kind of got cut off. Right. And it's like losing a limb. It's like losing a part of your identity is not easy, and we work so much in our lives that if you're lucky, your job becomes part of you in the sense that you love it, and it's not a grind. It becomes part of your identity, and then but what do you do when that's gone? Yeah,
and it's true. If you're lucky, like I was there for 35 years, and until the last 6 months, I probably never imagined not being there. I just thought I'm going to die here. And I think everybody assumed that was going to be the case because you're there for so long. That you're just never going to go, and so I miss that connection. I miss the connection with the listeners. Though I found a way to feed that, so to speak, with social media and Instagram. Thank goodness for that in my life. I never thought I'd say that because social media can be the devil too.
Yes,
but in my case, the ability to tell the world that I'd had a granddaughter because I was so used to living my life with my family involved in my career all these years. That I really missed out. I miss, what do I miss most? I miss working with Jack and Matt. I mean, I would be lying if I said there wasn't days that I just would give anything to get in my vehicle, my Londonderry Dodge Jeep, unpaid promo, but rip to that radio station, sit in the chair that I sat in for all of those years, and just listen to Matt sneeze and slurp and Jack passively aggressively give Matt a rough time. And have the most fun. Like we had so much fun on that show. We may not have always been the most successful show on the radio in Edmonton, but there's no show that had more fun. And there was no show that had more of a connection. So I missed that. I missed the charity angle and giving back. I mean, that's just to me, that's what feeds me, right? So I have to continue to find ways to do that because I miss the kids at the Stollery, and there's no excuse why I can't go back and volunteer and do stuff at Ronald McDonald House and do things with Hope Mission, but because that was just the biggest part of my life.
Yeah, I think you've had to find ways to make those connections and keep those connections in a personal way versus in a professional way, which is different. Like you still talk to Jack and Matt, you're still friends, but it's different to be friends than to be there every single day talking to each other,
Right, and it's interesting because people say, hey, do you listen to the show? And you know what? I don't listen at all. And it's not because I don't love those two and I don't love the radio station and everybody I worked with, but somebody gave me the analogy. They said, it's kind of like your ex. And it's not like we broke up, but it's kind of like your ex. I think you're the one that said it, right?
I did. Yeah. Someone very wise.
What did you say?
I said, it's like a breakup, or I think I started with death and I said, that's a little much. Okay. Yeah. It's like a breakup. You're losing this part of you that you thought was going to be there forever. These people too. Coworkers become like partners in your life. You saw Jack and Matt as much as you saw us, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like going through a breakup, which is why therapy is important, and recognizing that you're allowed to mourn that loss in your life and not feeling bad about it. People think that moving on and retiring, which you're not retiring, but retiring from that role is a good thing, and it is. I think we should also talk about some of the positives.
There's not a day that I don't go, thank goodness. Like it was, I'm healthier now from a physical standpoint. I was going down I was literally constantly tired, which made me constantly eat. I had no energy for exercise, and I just felt tired all the time. But getting back to Jack and Matt and the show, not listening to it is no disrespect to them. I want them to do well, but I can't watch it happen. Like you can't watch your ex.
It's like how you unfollow them on Instagram. You're like, okay, this relationship is over. Even if it was a good relationship, you don't really want to see them moving on. There's a famous quote that says, I hope you get everything you ever wanted, and I hope I never hear a thing about it. And that's about a breakup. Right. But the same could be about a job.
Yeah.
Although I think you want to hear about their successes.
I want to hear about their success.
Yeah, so it's
but
a little different.
Yeah, I want them to just hit it out of the park. But
They're like your kids, too.
And that's the other thing. They were like my kids for sure. So
They still are.
They still are like my kids.
We're talking about them.
Yeah.
They're still here. We still talk to them. I still listen to them.
Yeah, I know you do. But people ask, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's just something that people would find interesting. Talking about social media and how it is, helps somebody like me. And a lot of people have a voice now that they, when I first started at Kissin' 35 years ago, there was very few of us that had the ability to have a voice. Mm-hmm. And now everybody, for better or worse, has a voice. And I had the ability to connect. I mean, shortly after I left, 2 days after we left, Karen and I got in the vehicle, went to Vancouver to an Oiler game 5 of that series, which was, they lost, but anyway, it was a great experience for us. Got back, went to game 6. I was at the stadium at Rogers Place, and everybody's coming up. Hey, you were at the game, and I'm like, how do you know? I wasn't on the radio to tell you about it. And then I'm like, oh, you saw it on social media. You still have a way to connect, and that's a good thing as well. And that's going to be a big part of what we do on this show too, right?
And that's why I'm here.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, we could have put a mic in front of you and a camera and kept it going, but my background is a lot more focused on that.
All right. So just really quickly about me before we get to the more important one, and the one you can tell is the intelligent one of the two of us. I can't believe when she was born September 1st, 1994 at 9:19 p.m. at the Grey Nuns Hospital. 30 years later, we'd be sitting here and she would be teaching me as we go. But that's the way your kids do things sometimes. Just talking about hosting events and speaking. My favorite thing is to be behind a microphone. And you talk about charity and helping out and things like that. I've been excited to speak to 4-H clubs and doctors and police officers and tell them stories about the things that I got a chance to experience and try to inspire them. And that's kind of been a really cool thing that I hope continues and continues on in 2025. Go to chrissheetz.ca to get me to come to your event.
And we had to get to the plug.
Yeah. You know it. All right.
I think circling back one more time on the Jack and Matt thing.
Yeah.
What is the real reason that you haven't listened to the show since you left?
The real reason? Oh, because it's on too early.
You're not awake. He's making it into this really deep philosophical thing, but ultimately he's not awake for those hours, and that's a good thing. You need to recover from that sleep debt, but that's the truth. That's the truth.
Okay, that's a good point. I am doing something once a week on Sports 1440, and I'm talking sports with Kevin Carius on Tuesdays, and I've always loved talk radio. You think about podcasting. I was one of the first people that ever podcasted, and I should have probably, took that idea further. John Short was a legendary talk show host, and when you were a little kid and I was working at Kissin', I would record his show every night. I would record his post-game Oilers shows on cassette, and then I'd listen to him in my vehicle driving to work. So I was kind of listening on demand on cassette, and when I'd go for runs, I'd had a Walkman. You don't know what a Walkman is, do you?
I had one. Yeah. Well, I think I had your old one that I played with as like a baby. But
Okay. But I had a Walkman, and I would record him on podcasts. My point is that I love sports talk. So it's just another opportunity for me to do something I've always dreamt of, as you know, right? And they gave me an opportunity.
This time should be you living your dream. And included in your dream is sitting in a very fancy studio with your daughter chatting about life.
All right. September 1st, 1994, my world changed. It was the best day at that point in my life. I'm not going to say.
Yeah, I was going to say, whoa.
But when
Carter's going to come at you if you say it was
when
the best.
you popped out of your mom, and she'll say it wasn't a popped out, but I was there. It looked like you popped out. And this kid popped out, and she just, I remember them holding her, and she was looking around like, okay, world, I'm ready for you. And I had a flash camera. And I took a picture of you. And keep in mind, you've just come out. You've never seen
anything.
Yeah. And all of a sudden, your dad takes a flash picture of you. And the way your eyes snap shut, and I could tell by the look in your eyes, you're like, oh, I've got this dad, do I?
I was prepared. I was warned early about what I would be going through as a child.
All right. So what is early Baillie's life? What do you recall in your life growing up? From a family perspective, from whatever?
I think I got pretty lucky as far as childhoods are concerned, maybe beyond the flashing early. Mm-hmm. I think that, yeah, I grew up with such supportive parents. I mean, we'll talk about my mom at some point, probably more in depth. My mom, just mine.
We probably should.
Yes,
Yeah.
we probably should give her some credit.
Yeah.
And a brother who was willing to watch my performances, which was nice because I would do all kinds of singing and dancing on our fireplace, and he would introduce me. So maybe we should have had him introduce us here today because that was his role growing up. He's kind of come into his own a lot more, and he's a bit more of a performer than he used to be. But I feel like I was lucky, and then really early on recognized that I was in a radio family, which is,
what does that mean?
It means that parts of your life are broadcast, no matter, not that you don't have a choice. You were always pretty good about that. But your life, again, prior to social media influencers, and people talk a lot more now about kids putting them online and things like that, and it's different. But my stories and my life were shared in a way that the other kids in my class weren't. And I think that was, I never had a problem with it. It didn't really, it became worse when I was a teenager and I would get embarrassed about things.
Right.
But as a kid, it was just like, oh, dad's talking about us on the radio again. I think that I thought you were just talking to us a lot of the time when we would come home from school and you were on the drive home show.
Right.
We would listen to you talk about things in our lives, and I was like, oh, that's nice. Everyone's dad gives them a little broadcast on the way home. I don't think I really knew. I don't think I really knew that it was different. And the other thing that was so ingrained in my life because of your job was music.
Right.
Going to concerts, country music particularly, just became a part of who I am. I went to so many concerts so early. Big Valley every single year I've been alive.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
Yeah, you guys went from your first year.
So it would have been August. I would have
10
been 10 months old, and I went every single year.
Yeah.
So it's just like those kind of things. Yeah, your job influenced parts of my life even now.
How many times did you meet Taylor Swift? We'll talk tomorrow about Taylor coming up.
I mean, the Swifties. I could do a full episode on Taylor Swift. I could do a full podcast on Taylor Swift, actually, a spin-off. But I've met Taylor Swift 2 times.
Yeah.
They're maybe the most 2 important days of my life. My husband's looking at me, and my baby upstairs. But those are, there were some pretty good perks. There were things about my life that were broadcast. There were things that sometimes I was embarrassed about. But overall, would recommend, except for when you lived in a tractor. I didn't like that.
You didn't like when
as
I
a
lived in a
child.
tractor?
Yeah, you were in a tractor raising money for farmers.
Yeah.
But I was in grade 3 at the time.
Yeah.
And when you're in grade 3 and you're like, so sorry, Dad's not coming home tonight. He's living in a tractor. It's a bit traumatizing. I didn't love that. But overall, it wasn't too bad.
All right. Well, and then again, you talk about when my career ended, like that was a part of your life that ended too on Kissin', right?
I was quite pregnant at the time, and you were finishing your last show, and I cried way more than I thought I would. Yeah. Like it did feel like a chapter closing for you, but also for our family as well.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So let's talk about then life. So when you're looking at what you're going to do with your life.
Yeah, which is a crazy thing that happens to you when you're like 16 years old,
right.
which doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
I was a pretty good kid in school. I not to brag, but I got good grades and things like that. And as we kind of had family discussions about where I wanted my life to go and things like that, I remember very vividly you saying, well, as long as you don't get into media like me, then that's all that matters. Like do whatever you want, truly whatever you want, but don't follow in my footsteps.
Right.
And I said, of course, why would I do that? That doesn't make sense. And
right.
so I went to school thinking I was going to become, for a while, a psychiatric nurse. I went to sciences.
Why psychiatric nurse? You thought you could get directly to your 3rd year because you had me for a dad, because you had experienced a lot of psychiatric
I've experienced
issues.
a lot of mental health in my life. I was like, you know what? Fast track me. Put me straight into the hospital, actually. I'm ready. There were many different paths I could have gone down, but of course, as life would have it, I ended up at NAIT in the radio and television program as part of a communications program, and there I was.
Went to Victoria for a year, and that was a great year for you. It was tough for us as a family. I remember you and your brother that day when we left vividly. And I thought, I could just tell how sad you both were to not be together for the first time, right?
Yeah. I think it was very good for me and important to live away. I was away for just over a year, which again, some families live on the other side of the continent from each other, so it sounds dramatic, but for us it was dramatic at the time. And you don't realize how close we are until that was happening, and we've remained close obviously, but my brother and I leaving was that was tough. But was good for me. I think it was good for me to come back as well. I think that there was a little bit of
I
concern.
thought you'd never come back.
Yeah.
I thought once you got to Victoria, that was going to be it, and I thought we'd be moving there to join you. But
turns out everyone in Victoria is 70 years old, and the only jobs are with the government.
Right.
So thank goodness for that, and thank goodness for the man behind the camera.
Right.
As well.
Yes.
He was a part of the reason.
I said you were going to fall in love there, and we were going to have to follow you there, but you didn't. You waited, and you found your man, and
now he's running a podcast for us.
Yeah, with his arms still crossed.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's enjoying this or not.
I can't tell either. He's kind of a tough critic as well.
Okay, so you go to Nate, you come back, you get a job at West Edmonton Mall. That was a cool job.
Yeah. My specialization throughout school, even at Nate, social media, which is something that you brought up, which is interesting, is that like the power of social media, and I've always really, really been passionate about it. Of course, my job as someone who works in social media was not something that existed even when we were having that discussion about what I wanted to be when I grew up. Like,
Right.
And that's the craziest thing, is that there's jobs out there now that didn't exist 5 years ago. I worked at the Edmonton Journal for a while doing some stuff with them.
That's right.
And then West Edmonton Mall, running all of the social media channels at West Edmonton Mall. Crazy. It's like a little city.
And you created something called What's Up?
What's Up at WEM.
Yeah.
Was a little bit of a video project that I
Yeah.
worked on there. And I think that that's sort of where some of the more on-camera stuff started to come through for me, which, again, I tried to suppress for as long as I could. I'm like, no, I'm behind the scenes. And I mostly am still, but
Yeah.
there's also this.
Okay. All right. And then Women Building Futures, a great organization.
Yeah. I worked for a couple of nonprofits, but Women Building Futures is amazing. A job that helps women get jobs, but in the trades and in unlikely fields for women, which was super rewarding.
And you had a chance to meet just some incredibly inspirational women.
You don't realize how like pointless your job is as like a communications person until you meet a welder.
Yeah.
Who like can do things or a woman who works in construction and can build homes. Like I'm like, oh well, I can make a communications plan and I can make a tweet, but like just incredible stuff.
Right.
And it all came down to where I currently work. I'm on maternity leave now for the next year. Well, not a year now.
Yeah.
My baby's 5 months old.
Yeah,
But I'm on maternity leave for the current season, let's say that. And I work at the Edmonton Oilers as a social media manager, the social media manager for them, which is a dream for me, but more so for you.
100%. I'm so jealous. You know, I think it's a good thing when you're jealous of your kids because then they've really done something that I was proud of everything you've done. Don't get me wrong, but then when you get this job with the Oilers and you're the one that's flying on the PJ as they call it with all of the players, we're just like and following the team, which is something you watched me do when you were little.
Yeah.
Not working for the team, but I'd follow them around. I threw the beef on the ice. You were a young girl then. You remember when Dad got arrested, and
Again, that's another thing I should have mentioned that was in my blood without choice was the Edmonton Oilers.
Right.
You come out, the first thing you're wearing is an Oilers onesie.
Yeah.
There's no
literally when you were born. I remember going to Millwoods Town Center to get you something Oilers like
immediately,
and it didn't matter that you were a girl or a boy. It didn't matter. It was just we're getting her something.
It's been a part of my life. So watching you be such a fan. I think I've watched every game in my life, almost every game in my life.
Right.
As a child with you, and then as an adult on my own, and so getting that job with them, just incredible. Like you live in Edmonton, you grow up a fan, and then you're working with the team.
Yeah,
it's a true dream.
Yeah.
I can't wait to go back.
It's a pretty exciting time too, and you went through your pregnancy during the playoff run, so you're like literally working 24 hours a day, not complaining, but you're like incredibly pregnant. Your husband that we've mentioned a few times is scared that your baby's getting hearing loss because of the noise in the arenas that you're in.
Yeah. I traveled for the first round with the team, and again, that's every second day you're in the loudest arenas, especially Rogers Place is the loudest, of course.
Yeah.
And when Sweet Leona came out after our delivery, everything was good. As soon as we made sure the baby was healthy, he's kind of going over to her, making noise in her ear, and I'm like, "What are you doing? Like, what are you doing over there?" He's checking her hearing because he was convinced that the playoff run had damaged her hearing in some way, and thank goodness it didn't. She was well insulated. But I'll never forget this past spring working the Stanley Cup final. Super, super pregnant. It was just something like an amazing and crazy time in my life, and I really did want to put a baby in the Stanley Cup. There was a rumor that might happen.
Yeah, 2 goals short of it.
Yep.
They came close, and this year,
You never know.
Yeah, exactly.
She's a pretty big baby though.
Yeah.
Now.
Okay. Well, okay. So the Oiler thing is awesome. You have anything else to say about that? Just that you missed the job, and now you're like me in some forms. You're sitting back and watching somebody else do your job.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, and like also interviewing for your a weird thing about maternity leave is interviewing for your own job, like interviewing someone to take over for you. It's just like oh, okay, I guess yeah. When you love
You're
a job,
looking for somebody that's replacing you. It
yeah.
would be like interviewing your husband's next wife.
Yeah, so strange.
Yeah.
But it was also exciting to be a part of that process. And when you love your job so much, like you said, it becomes a part of you, and then suddenly it's not. And I'm kind of in the same spot as you in a way, where I'm on this year off with my beautiful daughter, taking care of her, but my day-to-day looks incredibly different than it did this time last year.
Yeah, but compared, harder, easier.
Oh, I worked pretty hard at my job. My job is nonstop 24/7 with the Oilers.
Yeah, there's things that are coming up all the time.
Yeah, when you work in social media, there's no such thing as like off time. There's no shut your computer. There's constantly things that need to happen. A player gets hurt. A player is moved. You're bringing a player up. You're bringing a player down. There's just things that are always happening. But I thought, I'm working so hard. This like motherhood thing is going to be fine. Maternity leave is going to be great. I don't sleep that much anyway. I work so hard. I was wrong.
Yeah.
It's different.
Yeah.
And it's harder.
How has being a mom changed you?
You know what? I think that the biggest thing is it's made me a lot more appreciative of time, because it's been insane. It's only been 5 months, and it feels like it's been 2 days, but it also feels like it's been 10 years at the same time. And seeing her change every single day, like it is such a visible, when she wakes up, she does a new thing that she's never done before almost every day. And I think it's just like, it makes you slow down a little bit and think about like how amazing it is that we're all here and that she's here. And it's just, yeah, I think it's been the obviously the best thing to ever happen to me, but it's really made me think a lot more about life and just to appreciate what we're doing instead of just getting caught up. And again, working in social media and things like that, there's a lot of noise and a lot of background noise, but just hanging out with her all day it slows it down.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and appreciating the new things, like just yesterday, she was eating for the first time a little bit of pablum, and she was going crazy for it.
Yeah.
And your husband, her dad, is like tearing up, and I'm there as a granddad going, I remember feeding you because I fed you all the time. That's why you eat so fast, is because your dad fed you so much. But same thing for me. People tell you that, oh my gosh, being a grandparent is like next level. And you go, well, it can't be, because nobody, you could have loved your kids as much as I did, but you couldn't have loved them anymore. And you don't think there's another level. And then a grandchild is born and you go, oh my gosh, like you cannot describe how you feel when you see her, when you think about her, when you hold her. You can't describe how you feel. And I was trying to think of an analogy, and I'm thinking, having a grandchild is like going to the best Airbnb in the world, and you get to go and you get to enjoy it. And then when you're done, you get to leave and you don't have to do the cleanup.
You've had to do a little bit of cleanup.
Well, yeah, but it's just, it literally is the greatest gift that a child can give their parent is a grandchild, if it's possible. And it's just, it's completely a different level of love. Like you hold her, and I remember really quickly when we got the call, you're having the baby. We knew you were in having the baby. We get the call from Renato. You do not know the baby's going to be a boy or a girl. You didn't know that. We didn't know that. He calls, we answer the phone, and he says, it's here and it's perfect. And we race to the Royal Alec Hospital, and we go down to the bottom level, and then we wait. And then we wait. And I swear we waited for 3 hours. And I'm not a waiter. And I don't know if this is a boy or girl. And I don't care if it's a boy or girl. I want to see my grandchild. I want to know you're okay. And we wait. And we wait. And the elevator keeps opening, and people keep coming down, and we're waiting for Renato, and he's not coming down. And then he finally comes down and he gets us. And then we finally get to go up those stairs, and we finally get to see our granddaughter. And you cannot. I don't care if you're the richest person on the planet. It doesn't matter what you get to experience. There's nothing like that. But that wait was terrible.
I will say,
Yeah.
at no point did he say, "Come now." We were very welcome, open to like visitors in the hospital. I
Yeah,
know
yeah.
people have different
Yeah, there's
different
different.
opinions and different rules on those things.
Yeah.
We were like, yes, of course, but like he called you as soon as the baby popped out.
Yeah.
Like it was like, okay, we got to let them know right away because we
Yeah.
were worried and there's so
Yeah.
many different things.
Yeah.
But at no point was he like, rush down here right now. You can meet the baby. There are all kinds of things that need to happen between the baby popping out and the baby being ready for visitors and me being ready for
Yeah,
visitors.
especially in your case.
There was a lot that needed to go on for
Yeah,
sure.
she
A
was-
lot of repairs.
She was how big?
She was 9 pounds and 3 ounces.
Right. So
yeah, and she came out, yeah,
she came out sidewards
fast.
and fast. I said her mom being so competitive just pushed too hard. But if I'd have been there, and thank goodness I wasn't, but I would have said, Bailey, slow down.
Maybe we'll do an entire birthing episode for those who are very interested. But my husband, again behind the camera, he said that was kind of like a CrossFit class for you. That was, but the end result was a little bit more intense than that. So there were lots of things that needed to happen. They also need to teach you how to take care of a baby,
Yeah.
how to feed a baby. There's lots of cleanup. There's a lot that needs to happen. Meanwhile, you guys are freaking out, blowing up our phones, being like, "We're here." Okay, I like don't have clothes on. The baby is full of blood. Like I'm sorry that you had to wait, but I do think it was a little bit your fault.
I'm not blaming anybody, but I'm just saying that was the longest 3 hours of my life. And then the longer we wait, the more your mind starts to wander and you think, oh my gosh, what's happened? And da, 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 da. But it was all good. And here we are with this healthy baby that's changing and growing, and it's awesome. So,
I'm surprised we can't hear her right now, to be honest.
Yeah, it's probably almost time for her to do her thing.
I will say one more thing.
Yeah.
One thing that I've really appreciated, you mentioned that you don't get to remember, or you don't slow down with your own kids as much.
Right.
But you do with grandparents. And one thing that has been really rewarding for me is watching you and Mom and Renato's parents as well get to be parents again in a way where when you're a kid, you don't see your parents be parents. So you're like, oh, I think you asked how my childhood was. I'm like, well, I was a kid. So it's hard. Your perspective is kind of skewed. You're like, I think it was good. I think I had good parents, but getting to see you with her has been just amazing. And honestly, like equally special.
Right.
And as it is for you to watch you be grandparents it really is lovely.
It's kind of like we lived the greatest movie, and now the sequels come out, and it's even better.
And I get to watch it because
it's Wicked 2, and it's even better.
Oh, part 2 coming next year? No, this year.
That Wicked movie was a good movie.
It's a banger. That's another thing I could do a whole podcast on.
We could talk about Wicked, and when we went, maybe we will sometime. We went to New York.
We have a history with Wicked.
We went to Wicked and we saw it, and it was awesome.
Yeah.
Well, what can you expect from this show? This is not necessarily what you can expect, but we're going to have guests. We're going to talk about things that hopefully matter to you, that matter to the world, that we have different insights on. I mean, we obviously come from different generations.
One of us knows what irony is, and one of us doesn't.
Exactly. Yeah, we see the world through the same lens, but we certainly, have a different maybe shade of something going on, right?
For sure, it's a little bit of an intergenerational.
Yeah. So we've got some really cool guests booked.
We do. We asked on Instagram for some suggestions, and I was excited to see that most of the people suggested we had thought about or have contacted already. So it's good. It's good.
Right. And the one other thing that we wanted to talk about was the studio.
Yes, where we are currently.
Where we're at. So here's the story. This studio, I'm going to back up a bit. We live on an acreage southwest of Edmonton, and we lived there since 2006. We actually sold our house that we moved into the night of Game 7 of the Oilers-Carolina series.
See, another thing is that everything in our lives is time-stamped by the Oilers.
Yes. Yeah.
Everything is, this was happening with the Oilers when this happened.
Yeah.
That's another thing that is now in my brain is like, it makes even more sense when I'm working with the team, but it's just like, this is aligned with this goal that happened.
It's so true. But we've lived in this house since 2006, and it was time when you moved out and your brother was looking like he was going to move out. We didn't need the 2-story home that we lived in. So we were starting to think about, doing the typical, I guess, what do they call
Empty
it? Empty
nesters.
nesting and reducing. There's a word for it when you
downsize.
Thank you. Reducing. That's a fancier word. But you suggested
Yeah, I thought that we had quite a lot of land, and Carter wanted to live on an acreage, and you wanted to live on an acreage in a smaller home. And I was like, well, can you just build a smaller home on this acreage? I don't really know how counties work or any of those rules with land, but I was like,
Right.
I don't know. There seems like there's room for a house back here.
Right.
Have we considered putting up another house?
Yeah, which was brilliant. And so we checked, and you could do it, but you had to build a small house. It had to be under 1,000 square feet. So we built this little cabin, as we called it, and documented it all on social media, and people followed along. And we got this house, and then Carter bought our house, and it's all worked out really well. But your mom said, I'm going to go down to this smaller house. Not every, and I shouldn't be stereotypical, but not every wife would go, okay, I'm going to move into a 990 square foot. Like, I mean, again, you sound extremely privileged, but the downsizing thing, and she said, I'll do it, but
I need a lot of storage.
Right.
She even said, I'm going to sacrifice a bedroom, and it is going to become storage because you've accumulated a lot of things over your years together.
Sure.
And one thing about our mother, my mother, your wife, she is organized.
Right.
And she wants to remain organized. And all she asked for was some additional space for your stuff.
Right.
So, a lot of it your stuff, some of it my stuff.
Right. Oh, you've still got lots of stuff.
I know.
So the basement bedroom turns into a storage room that's connected to the furnace room, and we've got enough storage room. But then when this idea comes up, she says, well, you're just going to put it in your oiler garage, aren't you? Like your podcast studio. And I said, but then I can't park a vehicle in there.
And then you can't make your little videos in the oiler garage.
Exactly. So I said, why don't we put the podcast studio in the storage room?
The storage room.
And
so that's where we're sitting.
Yeah. And Mom's stuff is
kind of strewn about.
It's ironically, it's in the garage now.
Oh, yeah.
Which
that poor woman. That's who really.
Yeah, I know.
Our ideas are her cross to bear.
Poor care. Yeah. So this is where we are. We're down in the storage room with the furnace connected. We have to turn the furnace off every time we do this because it's quite loud.
Which is good because we're sweaty people.
It gets so hot in here.
It's really hot.
I don't know
here.
what's going to happen in the summertime. I definitely won't be wearing a jacket. And again, I know some of you are listening on audio, but I'm wearing like a jacket. But yeah, we've got this studio. You can get this equipment, this Rodecaster equipment that, it's not cheap, but it's really, you can create all of this for a really reasonable price. It sounds great. It looks good. It's crazy how you can make something like this happen.
How accessible it is.
And it has. And it's happened.
That's why every man has a podcast.
Yeah.
It's so easy.
And 1% of them are successful. How do we get to the 1%?
Oh, I don't know. We haven't figured that out yet. It's just the first episode.
Yeah. Well, I think we've probably handled enough. I have no idea how long this went.
No, we should have had a timer.
It could have went 20 minutes. It could have went. I have no idea. Renato's just giving me a bunch of fingers.
Yeah, that was the weirdest way to do things.
He just gave me the middle finger. I don't know what that means. For those of you that are listening on audio, Baillie and I share a passion. It is Diet Coke. So we're going to cheers on this first episode of the show.
Wait.
Uh-oh.
This is ASMR. Did they shake these before?
There it is.
There we
All
go.
Right. And that's it. That's the way you end the first podcast / show
of Talking Scheetz.
Next week, special guests you don't want to miss.
No. The most requested.
The most requested guests
are
coming up first. Hey, I just turned into a radio announcer.
Yeah, that's what we told you not to do.
Even when we got nothing to talk about, there's nowhere I'd rather be. 'Cause there's something about you and me just sitting around talking sheets.